They reached Broad Street, the entryway to Wall Street. Here, the snow was compacted into an almost impenetrable glacier. The famous Morgan Bank was shrouded in white. The sight reinforced the reality. For the first time in its history, the engine of American capitalism was truly, completely shut down. "The main street is impassable," Gilded shouted over the wind, his voice hoarse. "We take the service tunnels, the old coal routes, the city's underbelly." This was Thorne's advantage. As the engineer who had wired the first electrical systems into the NYSE and many of the surrounding bank vaults, he knew the labyrinthine substructure of the financial district better than anyone. He realized Gilded was heading for the forgotten access to a sub-basement beneath a disused building on Nassau Street, adjacent to Trinity Church Cemetery. The next hour was a claustrophobic descent into the damp, freezing darkness. They navigated defunct sewer lines, dodged leaking steam pipes, and climbed through narrow coal chutes. The only light came from Gilded's flickering oil lamp, which cast monstrous shadows on the wet brick walls. During the descent, one of Gilded's men, a massive brute named Kroll, slipped on an icy rung and dropped his satchel. It opened, spilling several large, unmarked leather-bound ledgers into a puddle of brackish water. Gilded hissed in fury. "Retrieve them, you incompetent pig! Those are the European warrants. If they get wet, the ink will run, and the transaction is nullified." As Kroll scrambled to salvage the books, Thorne caught a glimpse of the script inside. Intricate, copperplate writing detailing massive transfers of shares in the Central Pacific Railroad and the Anaconda Copper Mining Company, all dated for March 12, 1888, 12 p.m. EST. These were the leverage points. Gilded wasn't just acquiring gold, he was consolidating control over the two industrial backbones of the nation, transportation and essential resources. The gold squeeze was the coup de grace, the final, brutal move to buy up all remaining leveraged assets at fire sale prices from institutions panicking over the gold shortage. They believe the paper is essential, Thorne thought, clutching the chronometer tally case tighter. They believe these flawed, water-soluble human records are the proof, but they will learn that the real proof is the unblinking, mechanical timestamp of my machine. Finally, they reached the door to the Borsa, a massive, rusted steel hatch set into the foundation of what Thorne realized must have been a pre-revolutionary structure, a perfect forgotten fortress against the outside world. Chapter 4: The Blizzard Bourse and the Triumvirate. The hatch opened into a chamber that smelled of coal dust, expensive cigar smoke, and fear. The air, though freezing, was thick with nervous energy. This was the Blizzard Bourse. The room was vast, circular, and dimly lit by flickering gas jets. In the center, around a heavy antique oak table, sat the rest of the triumvirate, each one a pillar of American power. 1. Senator Silas Vance, a longtime figurehead of the Senate Finance Committee, whose every vote on regulation was bought and paid for. He was the political camouflage. 2. Cornelius, the Kraken Krupp, the shipping and grain magnate, the man who moved the nation's physical assets. He controlled the ports and the food supply. He was the economic muscle. 3. Lord Kensington, of London, the outlier, a representative of the Rothschild interests, present to ensure the smooth transfer of assets held in Europe, the critical international component. He was the foreign legitimizer. They were all pale, their usual composure frayed by the storm, but their eyes were burning with a terrifying, unified excitement. "Augustus, you made it!" Senator Vance exclaimed, standing up, his shadow leaping across the vaulted ceiling. "The cold is unbearable, but the necessity is absolute. Is the ledger with you, the only document that matters?" "It is here, Senator," Gilded confirmed, nodding to Thorne. "The chronometer tally. And its engineer."
Thorne set the heavy mahogany case on the table. The triumvirate gathered around it, their combined wealth capable of bankrupting a small nation. Thorne slowly, carefully, unlocked and opened the case. The brass chronometer tally, polished and gleaming, seemed an almost holy object in the dim light. "Gentlemen, you understand the necessity," Gilded addressed the room, his voice regaining its command. "The official world is frozen. We have 48 hours. perhaps less, before the wires are reconnected. In that time, the panic over the unconfirmed gold supply will be absolute. We will buy, using the pre-signed warrants, at prices so low that our investment will multiply tenfold. The tally will timestamp every moment. When the government questions the volume of trading, the tally will prove that the transactions were executed flawlessly and sequentially during the communications blackout. It provides an unassailable record of our ownership. Krupp, a heavy man whose face was etched with decades of ruthless steelmaking, leaned over the machine. Thorne, is this apparatus truly immutable? If, say, a timestamp needs to be adjusted, if a minute or two needs to be removed from the record to smooth an irregularity. Thorne met his gaze. This was the moment he had been waiting for. The chronometer tally operates on the principle of absolute Newtonian physics, Mr. Krupp. The recording drum is governed by an anchor escapement that cannot be electromagnetically influenced. The only way to affect the timeline is to manually engage the override lever. He pointed to a small silver lever recessed into the side of the casing. When the lever is engaged, the tally ceases to stamp the official time, allowing for a lag between the verbal agreement and the recording. It is a necessary feature for complex, non-wired transactions. Gilded smiled cruelly. It is the necessary loophole, Thorne, and we will be using it to ensure the smooth execution of our new empire. He reached for the lever. Wait! Thorne interrupted. A point of fact, Mr. Gilded. A condition of my contract required that any activation of the override lever must be recorded. It does not record the transaction during the override, but it records the moment of human intervention. It's a secondary internal check, visible only on the microscopic witness spring inside the main gear housing. It ensures that any inquiry can determine when the human hand, rather than the machine's clockwork, governed the timeline. Thorne was lying, but with a mechanical precision Gilded could not dispute. The witness spring recorded more than just the moment of intervention. It recorded the duration of the override. But by focusing on the moment, Thorne planted the seed of doubt and shielded the tally's true, unassailable evidence. Gilded hesitated, his hand hovering over the lever. The others looked at Thorne with suspicion. You should have informed me of this secondary mechanism, engineer. I informed you of its existence in the contract addendum, Mr. Gilded, section beta, subsection IV. The ledger shall incorporate an internal mechanical safeguard against temporal manipulation. You signed it. Thorne stated calmly. Gilded glowered, but he was committed. The storm was raging, the clock was ticking, and the chance for world-altering wealth was now. Very well, let the truth be recorded. Now, gentlemen, the Blizzard Bourse is open. Lord Kensington, your warrants. For the next 2 hours, the room became a silent, tense arena. Krupp read out the complex assets being transferred, Gilded performed the verbal confirmations, and the tally, with its faint tick, 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 recorded the execution of the greatest transfer of wealth in American peacetime history. The triumvirate, using the absence of the legal system as their defense, created a new, temporary legal reality, codified by the unassailable genius of a single machine. By the time the final warrant was confirmed, the men were sweating despite the cold. They had done it. They had cornered the nation's gold. Now, Thorne, Gilded said, his voice husky with triumph, box up your precious clock. You have done your duty. You will be a wealthy, forgotten man. But Thorne was already moving, his plan shifting from calibration to confrontation.